Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome once again to the Dunham Camera Club channel. Good evening this evening, hopefully with all of the images that we've got. I know there's certainly some great images on there, so that's fine. Just have a quick look with a few introductions. Who was there first? Jill was there first. I'm not sure whether Jill is a person who just goes and throws a towel over the seat, but she's usually up there in the top. So welcome, Jill. Good evening, Sue. Grahame H in the house. Welcome to you. Who else is there? A few comments there. Good evening, Gail. Pleased you're there nice and early this evening, Gail. So, good evening, Keith. First time, I believe, for you, Keith. Welcome to the channel and welcome to the club. Jim, good evening, Jim. Who else have we got? Alan. Good evening, Alan. If you see me looking that way, of course, that's where I'm looking at the comments. So, good evening. Who else have we got? We've got Caroline and Dave. Good evening, Caroline and Dave. It's good to see you the other evening when we had the social distancing walk around the city. And, we've got a guest this evening. Mr. David Robson. Good evening, David. Welcome to our channel. Hope you enjoy the images. Well, no need for me to say hope you enjoy the images. You will enjoy the images because there's some very good ones. So, good evening, David. Viv was next in. So, good evening, Viv and Vera. Who else? Doreen. Good evening, Doreen. Got a few comments. Paul, good evening, Paul. And Bob, good evening, Bob. I'm sure that you've... look, I've just got water this evening, so I'm sure you haven't. So, who else have we got? We've got Keith, Doreen, Dane. Good evening, Dane, and good evening, Michael Hughes. So that's it up to present. Welcome to you, one and all. I did see a comment here. I must just find it. I can't find it. It was something quite comical, but I can't honestly remember who put it at the time. Let me just keep looking through. It was earlier on than that. No, I don't think I can find it. It doesn't matter. It was just made me smile at the time, but nevertheless, we're moving on. Right, what's Bob got? Brown barley flavoured water. Yeah, a drop of barley juice. Yeah. So, good evening, Mark. Mark's just popped in, so we're getting well up there to the usual sort of numbers. So, as I've already said to you, welcome to you all. It will, not hope it will be a good evening, because I've looked through the images a couple of times. I've, more than a couple actually. So I've done a few bits of comments and this all up here ready for passing on to you, and hopefully you'll gain a little bit by it. I think I'll sort of just start a little bit couple of minutes early before I do the notices, and just say that as a black and white competition, there is over the years, there's been quite a few different, how can I put it, a few different ideas on black and white photographs. When I first started with the LPA, we even, in a black and white competition, used to have what they call a spot colour. So you could have a black and white image with one single colour on that image. And a lot of people used to pick out, for instance, red, because that's a good colour to pick out. And then they dropped that. Some people in black and white competitions allow for let me just change this because it's just gone and played a whoops. Let me just minimize that, move that a second. Everything just had a little hiccup there for some silly reason. Yeah, in black and white competitions, some people allow sepia toned and various other tones, and so they are usually in a black and white competition allowed. Now, with this particular competition, what we wanted to try and do was to get people working on the content of black and white rather than sort of sepias and toned images in various ways, colorized images, etc., etc. So this is the reason that we called it black and white. Another way of saying black and white, of course, is mono. You could have a mono competition, and that's basically the same. It's a black and white competition. So anyway, that's a bit of an outlying idea on black and white. Just as an aside, don't forget that if for any reason we go down and you lose everything, then give me a couple of minutes just to create a new tab for you, and we'll and then go back and just hit the tab. It'll be just as you've joined this evening, just the same. So but if it goes dead, I have no control at this end on the live stream going across to YouTube. I have control over everything in the office, but not on YouTube. So if it does go down, wait a couple of minutes, jump back in and have a look for the icon. I'll have produced a new icon. Click on it and rejoin. So, right, a couple of notices. Let me just say before the couple of notices, who else have we had? Dane's on the Black Tower. Good on you, Dane. Paul, good evening, Paul. Tony, who else? Ray, good evening, Ray. And Jan's, looks like Jan's watching, and possibly Crispine. So, welcome to everybody who's on the list, and of course everybody else who is watching, not having sort of signed in or dropped a line in the chat. So welcome to everybody. Right, a couple of notices. Just to remind you, and basically all of these are about competitions. We only have 3 competitions that are coming up towards the end of the year. So the first one, and these are in no particular order, the first one is Bob's Chairman's Challenge, and Bob's Challenge this year is bridges. So make sure you get all of your bridges shots out, anything from as big as Humber Bridge to as small as one going over a little stream. If it's interesting, it'll do. So that's your bridges shots for for Bob's Chairman's Challenge. My President's Annual Challenge, it was a precise challenge earlier on in the year, but in actual fact, what I did, because it was a bit complicated and we've been in lockdown, etc., I've changed it to an open. But what I want to see this time is not just your image from diving into your hard drive and just producing anything. We want some really good top-notch images that absolutely go off the scale. So let's see some great images for that Open President's Challenge. We do have one final potty coming up, which is once again, of course, is going to be a digital competition this year because of the relevant situation we're in at the moment. And that is the final potty competition, which is natural history. And that's coming up in September. So make sure you pop onto the homepage of the website. I've got quite a lot of things filled in for us through the next coming 2 or 3 months, so that we can get to keep the weeks going. Most people are enjoying them. We're not particularly able to meet at the old school at this moment in time. Village halls and various places aren't of a size where you can have large groups, so it is a bit disappointing, but we'll work on that one and get back together as soon as possible. The final one is the next day group meeting on the 7th of September will be at Farings. Now, I appreciate that you may be sat there thinking, well, everything's at Gibraltar Point, at Farings, at down at Wisby Nature Reserve, etc. The problem is that we've checked the various places, and such like we were going to the Butterfly Centre near Doncaster. We've looked that one up. When you book a spot, you can book a spot, but it's only for 2 hours. And so by the time you've travelled there for an hour and you've had your couple of hours, really, we do like a little bit longer than that. So that's hence the reason that we're going to nature places, etc. The big advantage with Farings, of course, is that we can have a walk round the area where we'll tell you where to find it at the time. There is one, ladies and a gents toilet there as well. You can have a walk round, you can do things at the Humber Bridge. There's the old cement works and the old wooden thing where you tie boats up. Can't remember what you call them. Somebody's got to tell me now. It's nearly coming to me. I'm going to say dock. Anyway, there's more to do than just the wildlife. So do come on that one on the 7th, but we will send an email out. That's about it for the notices. I've put that piece of paper down. We're going to get on with the competition now. I'm just going to say hello to anybody else who's arrived. Just one, Michael Hudston. So welcome, Michael, and we shall see you shortly in the competitions. So, going on to the competition. Our thank you, Dane. Jetty is the word. Jetty is the word. For those who don't know, the reason that you might see the chat much quicker than I see the chat, because I'm actually 20 seconds in advance of you. So consequently, it takes a bit to come through on the chat to me. So that's the reason I didn't see it. Right, this evening's competition is black and white. What am I looking for? I'm looking for good, sharp images, images which have good tones between blacks and whites. Blacks really don't want to be blocked out, and the whites don't want to be burnt out. So, we are looking for something with a good tonal range and, of course, of an interesting nature in the image itself. So, I haven't at the moment got names of people. I'm just waiting for half time to be able to look at the list that Jill sends me to give the final 18s, 19s, 20s, etc. I have sent her the list, and so I'll be awaiting that to come back to me in a short while. Right, number one of the competition. Number one is a bass passion. So, yeah, we can see the player. I must admit, you can see that concentration on the face. The eyes are closed, and you can see the hands just about to move to strum the guitar. The fingers up at this top end are just ready for making the notes. I think on this particular image we've got some lovely sharp detail where it's needed in the face area and in the guitar area up to these fingers. Now the fingers, of course, could be due to the movement in the bass player's movement of his fingers whilst he's playing, and so hence that's not too much of a worry. I think on this occasion I may have liked to have seen a little bit more of the player's face or the front of the guitar. I think the bit that's attracting me is this hand. It's my eye is being drawn because it's closer to the camera. It's exaggerating in size, so consequently it's jumping out at me. So I'm just feeling that I would have liked the author to go round a little bit to get a little bit more of the guitar and the player's face. But nevertheless, well caught, well seen. I suppose the other thing as well, if you've got software that you can, just try removing a little bit of the noise, because on this area here it's quite sharp, but in the slightly darker areas we've got a little bit of noise. Now I don't mind a noisy image if it's an image which is taken in a situation where there is lots of dark places, but just try and reduce a little bit if possible. It does get more pronounced, of course, if it's been a cropped picture as well. So the other one, last thing with this one, little bit of dirt up here. Just spot those little bits of dirt out so judges don't see them. So a bass passion gets 15 points. The next one is a wet morning. Yep, we can see all of this dew all over the grass here. It's worse than dew. It's very, very wet. So it's just hanging there, and we can see the old hair. He's got wet on his front here, and his hair is beginning to cling together. So it is showing that really well. Do we want the hair to be in the title? No, I don't think we do. I think we have enough here because it's pronounced, this moisture. Then works fine. I love the background. It's been totally blown out. We can recognize what it is. We can recognize bushes, higher bushes here, tree, and a big tree here. So we can recognize that background, but it's totally isolated from the foreground. The foreground is very shallow. We can see that depth is from here to there. That's all. It's just that metre or so. And the author has just got it spot on. We've got absolutely beautiful detail in the hair's head area, ears, and we can see the whiskers. We can see the whiskers even in the background of the grey of the background there. Maybe maybe just a little bit of a tweak on the blacks just to bring a little bit more colour into the back on the hair, but nevertheless I love that image, and that one is being held back. And we've got a blank screen this time, so let me just go and try it again. Yes, we're okay. All calm in early morning. Yeah, we've got a lovely water scene here. We've got the water in front of us, no doubt a river, and a spur going off that way there. Not a lot of detail in this sky, so but that doesn't matter. We've got a little bit of interest in this bottom part of the sky. It is a I'm going to call this one, in my own mind, a more of a mono picture. I appreciate, I said earlier, mono is black and white, but this hasn't got the tonal values of some of the other images that you'll see this evening. But yet, I do think this is a very well organised and taken image. Personally myself, I think that I would have removed this one line in the foreground. It's just catching my eye, and I want to see these lovely masts coming from the boats themselves, and away into this waterway in the background. Now, I'm not bothered about these posts or whatever they are in the background, in the midground here. They're perfectly fine. You've got great depth of field, and it's lovely and sharp where it needs to be in this area here. So that's another one I'm going to keep. Right, oh, blummy neck. I don't know whose this is, but you're really testing me here. So I'm going to have a stab at it. Avistamiento di balenos. I hope that was somewhere near. Now, that, in all honesty, doesn't relate to me a whale's tail, but that, what I've just read out, could be a whale's tail. But just consider, it may be the place that the image was taken, but try and consider making the judge think about what you're showing them. So it is difficult, but nevertheless, just try and get me thinking whale's tail. So right, this particular image, it's nice and sharp. It's we can see the sharpness is just on these edges here. It's a little bit soft in this bottom area here, but that tail could have been moving so fast at the particular time that it was just going down. So it is difficult to get that 100% sharpness all over. Little bit in this area on either side, which the whites have just blown out a little bit. We've got no particular detail in one or two areas on this tail, so do be careful with that. I like your crop. You know, you've cropped it into letterbox form so that it keeps it nice and tight on that tail, so that's good. Got a nice little reflection here and a reflection here from these two white areas of the tail, so that's really good. This particular one, I'm not quite sure it's as strong as some of the images tonight, which you'll see. So that one, and I'm not going to repeat the title, it gets 14. Right, Battle of Britain, Flight Lancaster. Yeah, very nice image. Once again, we've got it either taking off or coming into land, and the aeroplane is absolutely spot on. You know, the detail in that aeroplane is cracking. This area on the top, the gun tower bit here, and all of the actual cockpit and the well, right through from back to front, very sharp. We can even see the tread on the tyres. The tyres haven't are not spinning, of course. They've not been put up yet, and we can even see the tread on the tyres. So that's very, very good. You've just about got the undercarriage here just saved from being too dark and blacking out. I can just see a little bit of detail in there, so well done on that. Just make sure that you do just bring those blacks back a little bit and just let us see just a little bit of detail if it's in the main part of the subject. And the main part of the subject, of course, in this image is the aeroplane. We've got more room in front than behind, so that's really good. And as I say, that the detail on it is lovely. I think I might just have chopped a little bit off the back end, you know. There's nothing here to make the image better, and it would have left a little bit more room for the aeroplane to move into. It would have given that impression that it was going faster. Shutter speed for your props are spot on, so well done on that one. It's a nice shot. It's not one that I'm taking through this evening because there is some stunning images coming up, but the Battle of Britain Flight Lancaster 16. Right, black is the new orange. I'm just wondering, because we've not got a lot of knowledge in the title to make me think anything of the image. Now, I might be missing something, but title is Black is the New Orange, so I go with that. I'm looking at possibly a steampunk, something like that, and I think maybe look at your title if you use the image again. Format quite nice. Possibly I would have taken a slither off this side because you've put the actual person off center, and I think on this particular image it would have worked fine having the person slightly in the center and the umbrella to this side a little bit more. So nice image, nice and sharp. You've got good detail in the fur area, just blotched up a little bit in this foreground on the fur, but the umbrella underneath the umbrella is good. You've controlled that really well, and so Black is the New Orange gets 17. Right, Branston Hall, yep, lovely image, very, very nice. I'm not too sure whether this is a treated image or whether it's just something that was done in camera or done afterwards, but I like the effect that you've given it. We've got some nice tones through it, from the dark bushes in the foreground here right up into the windows and into the roof. Nice interesting sky. It's all sweeping outwards from the top of the building, so that works well. And then we've got this really good leading line of this broad path at the front of it. As you go in, you pick up this path and you go into the hall itself, and you can see everything. And you pick up lots of interesting little bits on the way, the chairs, the bushes, a bench here, and these balustrades here. So, you know, we've got a lot of interest, that one, and that one I'm going to hold. Right, the next one, Bridge over the Beck. Yeah, once again, it looks as though it's had a little bit of treatment. We've got an image that just looks a little different, so one assumes, and you should never assume, but I'm assuming that it has had a bit of treatment. I like the very light reflection of the bridge in the water here, so we can see the reflection of the underside of the bridge, etc. We've got great detail throughout, and the depth of field in this image is brilliant. And I appreciate we've got a field behind, but The bushes in the background are sharp, the bridge is sharp, and we've got sharpness right into this water at the front. So well done to the author on that. And maybe, and I know you can't get higher because I'm trying to get higher to look over it, but we have just got these bushes in the background and trees sat on the rail. If I could have seen a little bit of field, it would have been nice just to separate the trees from the rail. But nevertheless, the bridge over the beck gets 16. Canterbury Cathedral. Very nice image again, very sharp from back to front. We've got some great details, some nice tones in there. We've got some slightly lighter areas right up here in the roof from no doubt the lights or the light coming through some windows, but it's been controlled very well. These bits of light here, not bothered about those. It works well, so it's very, very nice image, very sharp, and that one I am holding. Right, the next one, communication, number 15. I'm just looking at one of the scores. Yeah, communications, who are they talking to? What are they doing? You know, Facebook, Messenger, what could it be? You know, it does tell a story. You know, we can see these two young chaps, or young lady and young chap, whichever it is. Could be a young lady looking at this bag here. That's irrelevant. So nice and sharp. We've got sharpness right from one side to the other, and the couple are sharp, and then there's a little bit of softness against the wall at the back. It's very strange, but my eye keeps being drawn to this person whose back we've got in as a reflection in the window there, and it's just and only because he's got a lighter garment on, which is just catching my eye. Can't do a thing about it. The only thing you could possibly have done, the photographer, whoever, is to have moved slightly to your right so that this person would have hid that reflection. Don't forget, folks, look in your viewfinder not only at the subject that you're taking the picture of, but look everywhere in the image to see what's in the background, what you've got in, what you'd like to get rid of, etc., etc. Very nice image though. Is it as interesting as some of the others? I don't think it is this evening. So communication, in actual fact, does get 15. Cromford Mills, the wheel pit. Yeah, we've got a good representation. I've never been myself, so I can't relate to it. But it gives you plenty to look at. You know, it gives you, starting with all of the mill in the background, it gives you these wheels. We've got water dropping off. We can look at the pipes where it's coming through and it's going onto the wheels and turning the wheels. So we can follow a story right through with this particular image, and it works really well. And then looks like some sort of a bridge up here, or a standing viewing area or whatever. But nevertheless, we've got good detail, fairly fast shutter speed, because we've frozen the water fairly well here. So I like the effect throughout the image. It's good and sharp. I possibly would have liked to have seen the top of the building. The top of the building up here. That would have given me just the... would have given me just that top to view. It might have meant, though, and I wasn't there, of course, so it might have meant that you got a lot of light sky in. So there's possibly a reason in the end, but nevertheless, a very nice image. Cromford Mills, the wheel pit, gets 17. Right, Dance Fantasy. Yeah, very nice image. I do like the effect, the way that the authors put all of this together. Now, I am not believing that this was taken as is. It more than likely has been put together, but it's been put together well, and of its type, it's very, very good. I think there is a possibility that it does come across a little bit bright, but after saying that, with it being a fantasy type image, which it is of course, it works. So I do like this image, and it's, as you look round it, you've got something to look at. You can follow this stairway all the way up, you can watch what the dancer's doing, all of the stars that have been put round the dancer and everything else. So just going to hold that one back. Dark skies over the Humber Bridge. Yep, they certainly are, aren't they? The authors got the clouds just spot on. I think that the authors got the clouds spot on at the sacrifice of the underneath of the bridge, to be honest. Yes, we could say, well, what the author's done, he's, or she, I don't know whether it's a he or a she, has thrown the bridge into a silhouette. That's fine. You know, I'm just looking at it possibly as I would have liked to have seen it. So I think I would have liked to just have seen a tiny bit of detail underneath in the blacks. They have gone to a solid black under there. So just, it's your image. You show it as you want to show it. It's your image. So, but this one, nothing wrong with the image. Love the sky, but I'm not holding it back. Dark skies over Humber Bridge gets 15. Demolition underway. It certainly is, isn't it? Making a hell of a mess of that, isn't he? Or she. Once again, I always assume that it's a he, don't I? But anyway, the drivers tearing things apart, knocking them over, stripping them all down. I can't see anybody in the cab and the doors open. I wonder if it would have been nice to have got a little bit of separation of the driver actually in the cab, with it back a little bit, moving on to its next job, whatever its next job may be. But nevertheless, I think with a little bit of careful adjustment, then you possibly could have got a little bit more out of this image and brought out some of these textures in this old wood and this tin work by just giving us a little bit more definition between the blacks and the whites. We have quite a grey image, so just remember, we're looking for that full tones from some near enough blacks to the near enough whites. We've got the near enough whites on the old JCB digger, whatever it is here, but we could have got some more in detail into this wood. So the demolition underway gets 15. Disused wooden landing stages. Yeah, the one I mentioned earlier at Farings is nowhere as good as this. It's a lot more dilapidated, this jetty. But this one, we've got good detail up here in the area that we can follow through. The lights, the lamps, the masts, etc., and the seats here. I'm not too sure that... well, I suppose it doesn't look too bad for people going and sitting on these. It's low tide, which is just making it look possibly a little bit more dilapidated than it is. Quite a nice image, good tones. Some of these underneath are just going a bit black, but that, in this particular case, they're under shadow, so it's very difficult just to pull those back. I would have tried, if I could, to have got a little bit of more separation between the land and the water here, so that we could just have seen a little bit more of the water over the top of the rails. Nevertheless, we've got good detail in the image, and overall it's quite a nice image. Once again, we've got one or two dust spots on your sensor. and dust spots show up more as you get to a higher f-stop number. So if you're on f4 you probably wouldn't see those, but if you get onto f11, f9, f16, it'll show up all the dirt. That's just the way lenses and sensors work. So disused wooden landing stage 15. Dreamy forest waterfall scene. Yep, certainly dreamy. We've got this softness in the image. We've got the softness throughout on the trees. Looks a little bit like snow, doesn't it? More than likely is. And then we've got the light burning through at the top here, and gradually everything's just coming down. Long exposure to get the water milky, and we follow it through. If you want to go upwards, we follow it through from bottom left corner, and we pick up everything on both sides. Very nice image, very well thought of. I like the dreamy effect, not one that I'm holding back. This one gets 16. Just going to have a quick slurp. Right, take my finger off and I've lost my place. Early morning light through birch trees. Very nice image. Like this one very much. I like the small vignette around the edge. I like the border. You know, borders I can either live with, take, not like, but this one's not too big, so it works okay. And we've got a couple of larger trees either side just holding it in, and then we've got this one in the middle that just draws our eye to this centre spot and takes us through there. I really like the early morning light through birch trees, so I'm holding that one back. Early morning walk. I like this one. I like the texture in all of this stone, tarmac, whatever it may have been. I like the detail in all the grasses and this. And I like the way that the light's coming through, and we've got the rays here going across the trees. Does make it so that you've got this bright spot up here, but we are shooting into the sun. And believe it or not, you do get away a little bit with shooting into the sun and being allowed to have something that's a bit bright. So very well done to the author. I think you've coped well. I'm actually, and I did earlier, I'm actually trying to look for some flare, but I can't particularly see any. If any, there's one little bit there. And for those who don't know, flare is it's the light coming from the sun bouncing between the elements of glass in your camera. Well, not in the camera, but in the lens. So that's very good. And then to finish with, we've got this subject here walking up the road, foot off the ground, which is superb. And we've got the long shadow here, and the walker has gone into a silhouette. So very nice image. Not quite as strong as some, but that one does get 17. Fosdyke at Saxelby. So we've got the boat coming up the water. Now, I think you'll all appreciate when I say this is a very grey picture. This certainly does want some work on it to bring out the tones within the image. We could have had more tones in these ripples on the water. We could have a darker boat. In the shadows here we could get some extra. But it is a very grey picture, so do make sure that you tweak one or two of those sliders just to make sure that you get that tonal range between the lighter blossom trees to the darker boat. But I must admit that I do like the picture as a whole. So because the picture does just give a little bit something to overall, then that one gets 16. Right, Gannet 1. So Gannet 1 nicely flying in from this top left hand corner. Plenty of room to come into, and we can see all of the mottled water underneath. Quite a high ISO by the looks of it, with the noise across the water. Some good detail in this area here. Losing it across the bird, and we lose it on the far wing, but we've got the sharpness where it's needed in the head and on this forewing. Now unfortunately the whites have blown out. We've not got any detail in the back to the bird or the top of the wing. This particular gannet looks like a 3rd year bird. They're mature in 4 years to the full colours, so they don't have any speckled bits. Now this has just got a few feathers left, so I should say this is a 3rd year bird. Nevertheless, very nicely caught, very well taken, no obstruction or anything to take our eye away from the bird. So gannet 1 gets 15 points. Gannet 2, now when you look at this particular image, it is a totally different image than the other one. You know, we've got some good blacks, we've got some good whites. This time the whites across the bird itself are not blown out. We can see, although not feather detail, we can see we've got some detail in the white and on the top of back of its head. Sharpness through the head and all through the bird this time. And then we've got this lovely bit of light on the top of this wing here and on the tail. So very well done on this particular one. You've done really well. The bokeh, I'm not bothered about the bokeh which is showing. That's just a natural element of water and the lens from the background, so that's okay. You could take a slither off this left hand side and once again, like your other image, leave it plenty of room to move into. Still would have worked, still would have been a good image. This is a good image, and that one gets 16 points. Right, get you to the colonies. This particular image, I think the first thing that we look at because of the white is the 2 ladies. My eye then goes to the expression on his face, and you think, oh heck, he's had a bad day. But all in all, very nice image, very good representation of the period, and we've got some good detail in all of the faces and the clothes, etc, etc. Just a little bit tight on the toe down at this bottom end. Once again, don't forget, look around your image, make sure you've got everything in it. So just touching on the toe there. Maybe you could have made a little bit more of the tonal value in this wall by just sliding those sliders and playing with the saturation, etc, etc. But never mind, it's a nice image, and get you to the colonies 16. Ghost Riders, yeah, as we can see, very, very real, aren't they? You know, all they are is metal, but the way it all works is excellent. So we can see all of the writing on the front. We can't make out what it is, but we can see the writing. On this occasion, the author has taken the noise and possibly even added noise. You know, it does work to add the noise to give an effect. And on this particular occasion, I think with the whole image, it works well. We've got this group of people here, and then echoing it is just these wind turbines on the left hand side. A little bit of cloud in the sky just to give interest up there. So all in all, a very nice image. Not once again, not quite as strong as some of the other images, but I do like this one. 17. Halt, who goes there? Yeah, very bright image, isn't it? We've got a lot of white in this image from this big domed building here, and then we've got somebody looking through here. So I'm not sure whether the person adds to it. I think as a representation and a record of this particular building, it may have been a little bit better had you done one as well with nobody there. So just think about doing not only one shot or two shots, do plenty of shots, and put this building to the left, put this building to the right. You get lots of different shots. Looks like there's buildings in the background, so consequently you would have got lots of different shots from one particular building. But nevertheless, you've handled the whites well. We've not got any blown out whites on the top, maybe just a little right at the very, very top, but most of it is you've held it back well. So Holt who goes there gets 16. Right, the next one is handle and hanging key on part of old door. Lovely tones in this image. We've got this wooden door with all the rivets in it and the keys here and the knocker stroke opener here. We can see where it's rubbed over the years, so works really well. That one I'm holding back. Excuse me a minute. A little bit of a dry throat. Heron perched high up. Very, very good record shot of this heron. You've got a good close-up shot of it. Now, it could be cropped quite a bit, but nevertheless, even if you've cropped it, it's still a very nice image. We've got a little bit of brightness here on the head, and possibly we could have made a little bit more of the tones in the feathers here. If we'd done too much though, we would have lost it in the blacks, so I'm holding that one back for later as well. Hoping. Yeah, they're both hoping, aren't they? Lovely tonal range in this particular image. We've got from the gull here to the youngster here, and they're looking at the quayside fish and chips. I like the way that we've got a can here, we've got the chip box open, and we've got both people looking down into that. Really works well. We've got a good interest with lovely, lovely tones in the wood, etc. So guess what? I'm holding that one back. House in the Wolds, number 28. Yeah, once again, lovely tones in this image. As you can see from some of the earlier images, we've got good ranges through the blacks and whites. It is a little bit white on this area, but we've still got detail. You know, we're still managing just to hold some detail in there. So it's a nice image, interesting. Across the water, pick up the duck, up the stairs, and in you go. So I like that one. I'm holding it back. Hoverfly study. Yep, very nice image once again. Really hard. I've not really had a go yet at doing any really close-up images like this. But on this occasion, we've got great detail in the eye and this wing as well. Begin to lose it a little bit on the edges of the legs, but nevertheless, very, very nice. Is it a little bit bright across this area? Maybe just a tad, but if we'd not had it as bright here, we wouldn't have managed to get a little bit of detail into this dark area. So very well done on the hoverfly study. 17. Right, Hull's wet pavements. Superb image, isn't it? I must admit though, when you look at images and they're on a damp day, you think, oh hell, I'm not going out on a damp day, am I? But it really works, doesn't it? We're stood on the path and we're going to walk through. And when we walk up here, we just get these people. So we've got buildings to look at. We've got good textures and tones throughout. Nice sky. And as I say, lovely textures in here. The elements right close to you are usually soft, but the sharpness in this image starts in actual fact from this doorway. So it must be a window actually, mustn't it, being that height? But this window area. But this isn't even out of focus a tremendous amount. But a lovely image. That's another one I'm keeping. Keys to the doors, number 17. Yep, very nice image. We've got the authors managed to hold back all of the brightness or the darkness quite well. This key is possibly the worst. We've just got a little bit of brightness on this key that's just blown out a little bit. But the rest of them work really, really well. And we've got interest of looking through the different types of keys, the hangers, and this one large key that's not adjoined to the others. Just wondering about the textured background. Looks like the lighting's coming from the right hand side here, obviously. We've got the shadow under here and under here. But I just wonder about the textured background. But a very nice image, nice and sharp, and Keys to the Doors get 17. Lakeside Landing Stage. Yep. Another image that's possibly, if anything, just a tad grey. We've got really high tones in here. Now you've got some great detail in this wood, which you could have possibly have made more of, and I possibly would have liked this landing stage to be level across the image. It's just coming down a little bit at the left hand side, so just try, because you've not got a background to worry about on the water, you could have this square, so just make sure that things are square. So Lakeside Landing Stage 16. Yeah, the old ruins here. I was just going to say something very silly there. We've got a beam of light coming through here from the light in the roof. We've got a beam of light coming from the hole in the roof or whatever. I'm certain that there's no lights up there, and that's just putting this lovely texture onto the ground. Look at all of this texture of this paint and everything in here, and I want to really know what's in that cupboard. Oh, is it a cupboard, or is it another walkway further through? I think it might be a walkway, but interest, it makes you really think. So very nice image, and that one is being held back. Right, shooting on Light Amongst the Darkness. No, that was the last one. Lincoln Tank Memorial. W.M. Foster and co-engineers. We've got that nicely. We have just chopped off either end. Now, I don't know whether you was in a position where your lens wouldn't allow, but if it had allowed, I would have liked just to have seen the back and front of the image. This background is modern background to an old ancient tank that used to be built in Lincoln. So interesting, and although we know these are metal cutouts, really works well, and I like that image. Lincoln Tank Memorial 16. London Skyline. Yep, we've got the skyline. We can see all of the regular buildings, etc. City centre and more going up across this side. Then we've got the water in between. Unfortunately, we've got a very bland sky, which could have been early morning or later day, but we have also got the blacks that are really blocked out. I would like to have seen a little bit of lifting in these dark areas, just to show us a little bit of detail in these buildings in the foreground. So very nice image though, very well captured. But London Skyline 15. Right, where am I? Looking across the loch. I like this image. Very nice image. It's we've got this mist. We've got the mountains in the background. This stone just to hold this right hand side in, and then the bird on the other third. I think you would have even have been better if you'd I'm not sure what the word is, told the bird to look at you. It would have been really nice to have had more of the head facing you round this way, but nevertheless, nice horizon on the water there. You got that nice and level, and we've just got a building there in the background just to look at. So very, very nice all in all. It nearly made it, but unfortunately I just think the head there just lets the image down a little bit. So looking across the loch, 17. Melting ice, number 37. Yeah, you can imagine this, what was ice, just going into globules and running down what possibly is glass. I've not got a sharp point in the image though. It's not, we've not got a sharpness in these bubbles. I'm just looking if there is possibly across this area here, maybe, if anything, but that's all there is. There's no specific part of the image that you can settle your eye on, so consequently we look at the bottom, we lead up, and we're led through all the bubbles of ice or what, melting ice or whatever. But a little bit bright at the bottom, but there's not a lot you can do about that. It would be something white in the background that's just gone really bright. Melting ice, 15. Nibbled mushrooms. Yeah, I like mushrooms a little bit, but I don't like them a lot. I'll have a few if I'm forced. But nevertheless, title goes well with the subject. We've got all these nibbles here, there and everywhere, and bits missing, etc. Managed to hold dark areas in well, and it's gone out of focus in the back. It would have been nice to have seen it a little bit sharper, and I think the tonal range, we have got blacks and it does go to whites, but both the blacks and the white areas are just a little bit blown out, so try and get a bit of detail throughout the image. The subject isn't as, with them being nibbled, isn't as good as you may have liked, but you have to get what you're given. So very well seen. Nibbled mushrooms, 14. Not in my backyard. Yeah, another superbly tonal ranged nice image. We've got all of these backyards, and we look and discover what's in each one, how it's configured. Has that chair been thrown over from here? It could easily well have been, couldn't it? So we've got all the steps. We can see lots of interesting things, and I don't mind that we can't see what's in the background. In fact, I do think that the two cars do just catch your eye a little bit and take you away from the subject. So maybe you could have taken it from the top of this roof on the left straight across and to the right here. So just got rid of them bits in the background. Yes, it would have got rid of the chimneys, but my interest is in all of these backyards. Like the image, so that one is staying with me. Old brewery cellar. Yep, we've got the old window where they used to put, no doubt, the barrels or whatever they kept down in the cellar, and then we've got this barrel barra, and we've got detail in the walls here, the floor here, and the sides. A little bit black on here. Maybe if you could have brought a little bit of interest into that, but nevertheless at the moment we're sort of looking at the light coming through here onto here or from above, and it shows some detail in these old racks. So interesting image. Could have been somewhere at one of these old mills or somewhere, or an old pub somewhere, but an interesting image, and that one gets 17. Olympus OMD 10. Oh, it's not an OMD because of course it's not digital, so it's an OM. You can see I'm used to saying D on the end, but OM10 lit. Quite well lit actually, isn't it? Because we've got the darker camera, we've got silver up here, but we've got the darker camera on a dark background, and the authors managed to separate things like the cable release, the old cable release. For those people who didn't know, they didn't have remote releases, wireless remote releases in those days. Possibly a tiny little bit more light just up here, just to give us the hot shoe, the back of the hot shoe there, and maybe just a little tad. But I am being extremely picky here, so it doesn't matter anyway because I'm holding that one. On the way to somewhere. Yep, they certainly are, aren't they? They're either on the way to somewhere or they could be on their way back. We don't know, do we? So nevertheless, nicely caught image. The author's done slightly longer exposure, and we've got very blurry people. In fact, a headless person. So we've got the walkway going up here, and it leads us into the building. Nicely controlled lighting. We've managed to get the bushes in the brighter areas and the trees, and then the darker areas under here. We've got a little bit of grain in the image from the higher ISO, but nevertheless, very nice image. That one is 16. Rhino. Yeah, Rhino. Bright sky, but we have got a very challenging subject down here where it's darker, so it is difficult. And of course, if we're in a place where this is a natural rhino, in say a reserve or something, then it's possibly that it's a really bright sky in that particular country, so we'll go with that. And I like the echo of the one in the background, so I'm holding that one as well. Last one before the break, because it's at the bottom of my sheet. Salsify seed head. Salsify, something like that. I'm not good at plants neither. Very nice image been lit on a black background, and we've got every bit of the detail in here, and the stalk coming up from the bottom left corner. Very nice image, and I'm keeping that one. So we're on to our next image, which I shall have to turn the page with, so I'll turn the page at half time. I'll say cheerio for now, and we'll get you back at 1/4 past. So if you could start logging on from about 10 past, and we'll see you at 10 past to 1/4 past.